So we finally made it to vocabulary. So our first section of vocabulary is here, and it is vocabulaire 1, right? Vocabulary 1. And we are going to start with our greetings. So our greetings are going to change based on who we're speaking to. And we do the same thing in English. Like when you meet your grandmother, or if you were going to meet with the principal, you probably would not go up to them and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Right? You would be a little bit more formal. Maybe you do that with your grandma. I don't know. But especially if you were going to meet the principal for something, you would probably say something like, "Hello, how are you doing today?" That's a much more formal way to be greeting them. And the French have things just like that as well. So up here we've got bonjour and bonsoir. And those are our formal ways of greeting someone. Bonjour can be used at any time. It's our way to say hello. It can also mean hi. It's not directly translated as hello, but it is a greeting of some sort, so hello seemed to be the most appropriate. And then bonsoir is a little bit more specific, meaning good evening. And then salut is going to be our informal way to greet someone. So when you're talking to your friends, to your close family members, you would be using salut. So if you were going to meet with the principal, think about it for a second. Which one of these would be the best one to use? Hopefully you said bonjour and not salut. Salut is going to be more for your friends. But when you are saying goodbye to someone, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. So à bientôt is our way to say see you soon. That's our first one. That T on the end is silent. And then our ways to say see you later, we've got à plus tard and à tout à l'heure. À plus tard, our S is silent as well as the D. And then in à tout à l'heure, you kind of shove all those words together. It almost sounds like one big giant word, right? À tout à l'heure. Up here, à demain is how we're going to say see you tomorrow. And then au revoir is how we say goodbye. And au revoir is one of our formal ways to say goodbye to someone. À bientôt, à plus tard, à tout à l'heure, and à demain are a little bit more informal. So if we want to ask someone's name, we are going to say tu t'appelles comment, which is what is your name. You can also move the comment, so the last word in there, to the front and say comment tu t'appelles, and that means the same thing. They both mean what is your name. And to respond, you're going to say je m'appelle, and then your name. So let's try that real quick. Répétez. Tu t'appelles comment? Je m'appelle. You should fill in with your name for that one. And then if you want to ask what someone else's name is, you could either say, based on whether the person you're talking about is a male or a female, if it's a male, you will say il s'appelle comment, and if it's a female, you'll say elle s'appelle comment. And then again, based on the response, if you're talking about a male, you would respond with il s'appelle, and if you're talking about a female, you'd respond with elle s'appelle. And this translates to what is his name or what is her name, based on whether you pick il or elle. Anytime I've got a dash in a line of the vocabulary, that just means that you could pick either one, but you wouldn't pick both. So you're never going to say il, elle s'appelle comment. You're always going to pick either il to start your sentence or elle, and you decide which one based on your needs. Oh, that's it for that slide. So there we go. More stuff we want to do. Oh wow, all the information is right there. Let's pull that screen back up just so I'm not bombarding you with everything. There we go. So if we want to ask how someone's doing, this is where we're going to get into our formal versus informal again. So if we can say ça va or comment ça va to mean how are you, and this is more of our informal one. So let's put that in there too, just to make sure we've got that again. So this is our informal way of saying how are you, or ça va itself literally translates to how's it going. And our formal way to ask someone how they're doing would be comment allez-vous. So if you were for some reason managed to get to go meet Prince William and Princess Kate, you would be using comment allez-vous with them as opposed to saying ça va or comment ça va. And then we've got a lot of answers here. So our answers, we could just say bien, which means well, just by itself. In your head, you may want to translate that as good, but technically the grammatically correct response to how are you doing should be I'm well rather than I'm good, but you translate that how whichever one you prefer. Non pas très bien is how we're going to say no, not very well. So if we're having a rough day and someone says, oh, comment ça va? We're going to say non pas très bien. A very generic response, which is totally okay, is to say oui, ça va, merci, which is how we'd say I'm fine, thanks. It literally translates to it's going, thank you. But yeah, it's just the very generic how most people hear if someone says, hey, how are you doing? You say, I'm fine, thanks. That's the same type of one. Oui, ça va, merci. And then we've got pas mal, which means not bad. Très bien, very well. So we're having a really great day. Someone says, comment ça va? We can say très bien. And then if we want to ask how someone else is doing, we could either say et toi or et vous. And again, this is going to be totally based on formality. So if someone asks us, comment allez-vous? We would want to answer with the vous as well. If someone asks us, ça va or comment ça va? Then we want to answer with our et toi to go along with. If someone asks the question formally, we should answer formally. If someone asks it informally, we can answer informally as well. And again, the dash being there means you would say one or the other. So no matter what, you're going to start with a, but if it's informal, you end with the word toi. And if it's formal, you end with the word vous. So it either becomes et toi or et vous. Then as we scroll down here a little bit more, if we want to introduce somebody, we are going to say, again, the dash means pick one. We're either going to say je te présente or we're going to say je vous présente. Think for a second. What do you think the difference is between saying je te présente and je vous présente? Hopefully, you thought, oh, I bet that has to do with being formal or informal. And if that's what you thought, you were right. So let me copy these real quick. Our formal way to say that would be to say je vous présente. And our informal way to say, to introduce someone, it's not really in there, we're just going to put it up there, would be to say je te présente. And that's how we would introduce someone if we want to say, I'd like to present this person. We could do it, another informal way to introduce someone would just be to say ça c'est, which literally means this is. So if my sister was here, and I just made up the fact that I have a sister, and her name was Antoinette, I would say ça c'est Antoinette. And then you'd respond by saying enchanté. And you should have heard that before, especially in the accents video. But enchanté is going to be our way to say nice to meet you. So our last little bit here, oh, it just fits in the box, look at that, is to ask and tell how old someone is. So to ask someone how old they are, you're going to say tu as quel âge? Which means how old are you? It literally translates to you have what age? And to answer, you're going to respond with j'ai, and then one of our numbers, and then the word en. So if you were 13 years old, let's go with that, you would say j'ai 13 ans, which translates to I am this many years old. And then if we want to ask how old someone else is, so very similar to asking for someone else's name, we would say il a quel âge if the person is a male, or elle a quel âge if the person is a female. And then again, to answer, you would pick whichever pronoun you use. So whether you said il a quel âge, you're going to answer with il a 12 ans, a number, right? And if the question was asked as elle a quel âge, you're going to answer with elle a 12 ans, with another number put in there. I just happen to pick the number 12. And that's going to mean how old is he or how old is she, based on whether you picked il or elle. And then your answer, he is 12 years old or she is 12 years old, based on whether it's with il or elle. All right, so our next slide for vocab is the numbers. I'm not going to write these up here because I feel like they're pretty obvious, but it starts with 0 and goes down through the numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. We already kind of went over the numbers a little bit in the beginning, but this is a great time for you to rewrite what these numbers mean, and then also this is just a great place for you to have your numbers so you don't have to always go back to that alphabet and number sheet. You can go back to your chapter 1 vocab sheet as well. So you're going to be looking at numbers, so 0, 1, 2, all the way through 30. And I'm just going to say those numbers again real quick just in case you're looking at pronunciation. Maybe you can write how you think these words are pronounced here if you can already figure out what they mean rather than the translation, just so you have another way to talk about these, to learn these numbers. So let me just do pronunciation one more time because I always like for you guys to hear it. The more you hear it, the better you'll be. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.